Thank you, and I am so excited for the main event. I guess that's when I'm done. I am super excited. So glad you are all here. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to read. Sometimes we read this aloud together, but we've got a chunk to go through, so I'm just going to read it to you. It's going to be up on the screen as well, and you can follow along. So we're going to jump back into the life of Jacob. So this is from chapter 27. When Isaac was old, and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." "Here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I'm now an old man, and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare for me the kind of tasty food I like, and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Now, Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die. Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me two choice young goats, so I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. And then take it to your father to eat, so he may give you his blessing before he dies.'" So this is the passage we're going to be in today. So last week we started our summer series on the life of Jacob. So Jacob was an important figure in the Old Testament, if you weren't aware of that. He's one of the big three through whom God's promises would flow. So it started with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so actually a number of times in Scripture, you will hear referred to in the Old Testament the promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And even you'll hear God referred to at times as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In our video clip this morning, you saw from Psalm 46, "The God of Jacob will be with you." So here's what you're hopefully taking away. He's kind of a big deal, right? Jacob is. And so if you didn't know the rest of the story, you would assume Jacob, being one of the big three, being referred to in the Psalms as the God of Jacob, like there he is, you would assume, okay, so this is a man of character. This is a man of integrity. This is a man who would stand out in godliness. And then you start to read the story. And you're like, I don't know that those are the words we'd use. As you read the story, the words that you would use to describe Jacob would be more like manipulator, deceiver. Like, these are the words that come to mind. And so here's Jacob, and one of the ways we described it last week is he's a guy who burns bridges. And so here's Jacob. He does extensive relational damage to those around him. Basically, what we've got here is a dysfunctional man from a dysfunctional family. Here's what I love. Like, I don't know if you've paid attention to this in Scripture, but I love that the Bible doesn't cover this up. Like, it doesn't whitewash the heroes. Like you might expect. I mean, if we're going to refer to the God of Jacob, let's just tell the good parts of Jacob's life, and we can kind of keep the other stuff quiet. But here's how the Bible portrays it as, let me tell you the story of Jacob. And the story gets quite a bit messy. But here's what I love. The Bible's not trying to hide it or cover it up. And for those of us who feel like every so often our lives are a bit messy, well, I mean, sometimes it is, right? And you don't have to hide. You don't have to cover it up. And here's what we get in Jacob's story, that he's a man who is far from perfect. Like, here's a man who you're like, I mean, I'm not sure I want to strike any deals with you. You know, I'm not sure I want to make any transactions with you. And really, if you just stay over there and I stay over here, that might be good. But this man, broken and dysfunctional as he was a part of God's plan. So let's just make the immediate application. You don't have to raise your hand, but anybody here slightly dysfunctional? Anybody here have some mess you wish you could undo? So, and our gut instinct says, and that's why God finds me hard to love. That's why I'm not sure God would have a plan for me. And what we get with the story of Jacob is, hey, you who are dysfunctional and messed up, let's tell the story of a dysfunctional man who is messed up and see if it doesn't just encourage you a little bit that you've got hope, that God has a plan for you. So last week we started it. We kicked off the life of Jacob as it begins in Scripture. Jacob, the younger of the twins, got his brother Esau to trade his birthright for a bowl of soup. Like one of those wild stories you were like, what just happened there? And that cannot really happen. And so birthright, like this means the oldest son gets a double portion of the inheritance. So as we described it, if it's 3 million, 2 million is going to the older son, and 1 million is going to the younger son. So a double portion of the inheritance, and basically the authority over the family. So when the father's gone, you will be the overseer of the family. That's the birthright. And Jacob tricks Esau into trading that lousy little thing for an amazing bowl of soup. Right? And so, like, it's one of those things, like, you read it and you're like, really? Come on. Like, nobody is doing that. But here's what happens. So Esau comes in, he's tired and hungry, gets a waft of this soup, and like, wow, like, what I wouldn't give for a bowl of soup right now. And Jacob's like, really? I may have a deal for you. And so Jacob, who's known to be the deceiver, here's what's interesting in that part of the story. He doesn't deceive anybody. He doesn't tell any lies. He says straight out, tell you what I'll do. I will trade you straight up an amazing bowl of soup that you can enjoy right now for your birthright that 30 years before you get to even enjoy that? So like this is easy, right? Now or later, which do you want? And so Esau's like, you know what? That sounds like a great plan. And so he swears an oath. And again, like we read this and it's like so ridiculous, so unreasonable. Like you might even be tempted to say, and this is why I find the Bible hard to believe. And then we were reminded, but that is the script for almost all temptation. Right there. Ignore the consequences. Don't think about what's on the line. Don't look ahead to what could happen. Just be in the moment. What do you want? And just stay focused on what you want. In that moment of temptation, isn't this how it works? What you want seems huge, and everything else seems small. It can feel like the only thing that matters, right? You know how you can hold up a tennis ball and block out the sun if you put it in the right place? It's kind of like that. And so here's the standard temptation to trade something small for something big, and don't think about how they're so different or how one's big and one's small. Like, what do you want right now? And so here's what we know. Like, we read the soup story and we're like, so dumb. He's a moron, right? But then we start thinking about the script of temptation, and here's what we know. This is how marriages end. This is how families blow up. This is how careers get wrecked. This is how lives are upended with this kind of a scenario where something small and in the moment is traded for something large and lasting. It's the standard story of temptation, and we can tell all kinds. Like if we just said, share a story you know about somebody who traded something like soup for birthright. And we could spend the rest of our time telling the stories like, let me tell you one, right? So what we were trying to do last week is just be like, and here's why this is in Scripture. Because it is something we can identify with. And one of the things we need to pay attention to is when we read it and say, Esau, you're a moron. Like, we need to come back to, oh, yeah, that can be me too, right? So we're going to continue in Jacob's story today. We're in 27. Jacob's father Isaac is getting old. He knows his days are numbered. And so he calls for Esau, the older son, to give him the family blessing. So let me explain that for a moment. It was customary for the father at the end of his life to bless, actually not just one child, he would bless usually all of his children, but in particular, the firstborn son. And that blessing was often to ask for abundant provision so that the oldest son specifically can care for the extended family. So that blessing would be asking for God to provide abundantly so that he can, the son, provide for the family when the father is gone. So basically the older son would be responsible for the family. So these blessings, if you think of it this way, the blessings were kind of like the last will and testament. They were highly valued as a means of declaring a father's intention and his will for the family going forward. And so again, the norm was that the big blessing went to the older son. But occasionally, that blessing could be spoken over other children as well. So while this pronouncement of blessing may not sound like a big deal to us, like, okay, yeah, tender moment, dad calls you in, says, here's what I'm hoping for you. But this is a monumental thing. Again, think of it as last will and testament for the family. And this is evident by the scope that Jacob and his mother Rebekah will go to attain this blessing, and Esau's like utter distress when he finds out that that blessing has been lost. And here's the other thing you need to know. So that was a verbal culture, not a written culture. And so when the blessing was spoken aloud, that would be like reading the will aloud. It would carry a lot of weight to it, and it's this pronouncement for the son and the whole family to establish what is being spoken, like this is how it's going to go. And so when Isaac finds out that he's been tricked, this is part of the reason why he's like, I can't just unspeak a blessing. Like, I spoke that. So we're going to walk into the story now just a little bit. Wanted you to kind of be able to sort out, like wait, birthright blessing, what are those? So hopefully that helps you a little bit. So in the introduction, remember this? We were told that Isaac loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. So, like, that's a messed up family dynamic already, right? Like, really an unhealthy dynamic with mom and dad choosing favorites. And let's just acknowledge this. Maybe some of you grew up in a family like this. I know people who have grown up in a family like this where it was clear that one was favored over the others, and they have spent much of their adult life trying to repair that. Like, that's how broken that is and the kind of damage that does. So you can imagine that right there creates some pretty strong lines of division in the family, right? And so when it comes to this family blessing, well, Isaac has one plan and Rebekah has another. Isaac has his favorite son, and he wants to make sure the blessing goes there, and Rebekah has her favorite son, and she wants to make sure the blessing goes there. You can imagine that this is a recipe for disaster, right? So here are a couple of things I want us to consider as we get into this. So there's a pretty good chance, right? I mean, this isn't told in the story, so again, I always want to separate when I'm saying something. This is me. This is me giving you my take on what I believe is going on. But I feel confident Jacob would have made known the soup for birthright swap thing, right? I mean, because if you're going to make good on that, then Dad needs to know, hey, just so you know, he had a great bowl of soup the other day, and he traded his birthright for that soup, and just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page here, that that birthright is mine. And let me just add a piece there, because you were like, I mean, but Dad could just undo that and be like, because if I'm the parent, I'm like, yeah, that's not standing. But the challenge was Esau swore an oath, and an oath was considered something significant. That you, when you swear an oath, you keep that. And so Jacob's kind of stuck. I mean, Esau's kind of stuck because he swore that oath. So I feel confident that Jacob made known, like, hey, just so you know, Dad, like, the birthright is mine. So here's Isaac now doing his best to ensure that doesn't happen. Regardless, now, this is regardless of what God says. So remember, when they were in the womb, that God had declared to Rebekah that the older will serve the younger. It's not normally how that works, but that was declared. And so regardless of what was spoken by God over them, regardless of any oath made, Isaac fully intends to make sure Esau is over Jacob. But Mommy's about to get involved. She's going to make sure Jacob gets his. She knows what God has told her, that Esau would serve Jacob. And she's not going to leave it up to God and take chances there. She's going to do what she can to make this happen. And so she's going to resort to deception and lies. Rebekah and Jacob will exploit their father's disabilities and use it to their advantage. Like, that is just cold and heartless, right? And so last week when we were looking at the first part of the story, the question kind of was, what would you pay for a great bowl of soup, right? This one is, what price would you pay to get the family blessing? And what we can observe in all of this is that this is a family made up of people committed to their own selfish agendas. And they would pursue those regardless of who would be abused or broken or trampled in the process. They're going after it. And here's what I'll just declare from the outset, but then you'll see as it unfolds. A steep price was paid for this blessing. So Jacob is determined to move ahead of his brother and get it. And, you know, deception, well, that's just part of the process. That's how you get it done. So everybody's scheming against each other. I want to give you just a tangible picture. Like, so you've got Isaac and Rebekah with their favorite kids, and you've got Jacob and Esau jockeying for position. And so, like, really tangibly, I just want you to picture a car. You're driving along, and there's 4 hands on the steering wheel pulling. Like, that's kind of how this is going. Like, there's 4 people trying to get the car to go the way they want. And so if you can imagine how reckless this would be as you're driving along and you're like, hey, get your hands off the wheel, and everybody's pulling and turning and the car is herky-jerky, and you're like, we're going to wreck here if somebody doesn't let go. That's the picture of everybody jockeying for position here. Everybody's trying to pull the wheel and make things go in their direction. So Esau, he's out hunting for wild game to feed his father, the meal before his blessing. Rebekah, well, she sees an opportunity. Oh, Esau's gone. Jacob, I have this amazing idea. I know a way that we can get your father to speak the blessing that he wants to give to Esau over you. And so he's out hunting, and she says, just go grab a couple goats from the flock, and the game is on. Like, just grab something quick. I'm going to use a wild game recipe I know he loves. We're going to dress you up in Esau's clothes, and Isaac is going to eat, and then he is going to bless you. What could go wrong? So like, follow the plot here, right? So Esau is out hunting so that he can come back and prepare a meal and get a blessing. Rebekah, meanwhile, is plotting and scheming in this window of opportunity to get a blessing for her son. That's her favorite. Jacob, for his part, he's about to play dress up and lie straight up to his father. And Isaac is about to get conned. Great family, right? So Jacob, he's a little uneasy about all of this. Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "But Mom, my brother Esau is a hairy man while I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him, and that would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." So I want you to pay attention to the statement here. Jacob is not sure about this scheme, and his main issue is not that this is wrong. Right? You know, his main issue is not that, I would be making a fool of Dad. His main issue is not like, I'd have to lie to Dad. Those aren't his issues. Not even like, Mom, this could do a lot of damage in the family. Nope, those aren't the issues. His concern is that he might not be able to pull it off. And if he got caught, well, then he might get the opposite of the blessing that he's trying to get. So his issue is not about being dishonest. His issue is that he's afraid of getting caught. So, how is that for human and relatable when it comes to sin and temptation? How many times in the face of temptation has that been the nagging question? Not, is this wrong? But I could get caught. See, for many, we don't have a problem with doing what is wrong if we can get what we want and not have the consequences with our sin. This is Jacob's concern. That his father might find out that he was trying to deceive him. Like, here's what he's saying. Notice this. I would appear to be tricking him. You would appear? You are tricking him. Like, it's even funny to have it stated like that. Like, Mom, it would be so awkward if he found out. It would look like I was trying to trick him. Like, you are trying to trick him, son? Like, but for Jacob, it's as if, like, if he doesn't get caught, then it's not like he's tricking him. But if he does, well, then it's going to look like he was. Isn't it weird? Like, you're like, yeah, you're trying to trick him. And it's a strange way of thinking because he's afraid of how he'll be viewed if it's discovered that he's tricking Dad, not that there's a problem with him tricking Dad. As far as Jacob and Rebekah are concerned, the key is to trick him and not let him figure it out. This is the win right here. You lie, you cheat, you scheme, but don't get caught. And so here's Jacob, like he's open to deceiving him. He just wants to make sure he's not going to be caught. So again, like I want us to see the human side of this. One of the things you see in Scripture, even with these heroes, like so human, right? Like, isn't it true? You've been asked that philosophical question. Would you do this if you knew you would never get caught? Why is that question even a thing? Because we all know there's a whole bunch of things people would do if they were certain it would never be found out. So lying, like, I mean, it's awkward if you get found out, but if it works for you, well, that worked out. Stealing, I mean, it's really awkward if you get caught red-handed, but if you don't, like, that's a score right there. Cheating, well, I mean, again, awkward if you get caught, but if you don't, like, that's an A right there. Like, so here's how we tend to think of it. Like, there's a risk, and it's all good as long as you don't get caught. And so the faulty assumption is that sin is a problem if you get caught. Right? Now, we're in church, so you're like, that is not true. Sin is a problem. But in real life, in the middle of temptation, there's something in us that thinks exactly like that. That yes, sin is a problem, but it's not a real problem if you got away with it. So, you know, if you lied but didn't get caught, well, then you made yourself look better, or you put something on somebody else, like all it took was a little lie. You know, stealing, like, I mean, I saw it, I swiped it, nobody caught me. I mean, score. I've got a new laptop or whatever you took, right? You know, the grade or the promotion. I mean, yeah, I had to mislead a little bit on my resume, but, I mean, look, I got a great job out of that. And so we tend to treat this sin as sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get what you want, as long as you don't get caught. So what I want to move you past is that sense of just sitting in the church seats and saying, that is so wrong. And I want you to just sit as a person and being like, why do I even think like that? But I do. There's a verse in Romans chapter 2 that says this, and it really gets at the heart of what we're talking about. Paul says, and this is the message I proclaim, that the day is coming when God, through Christ Jesus, will judge everyone's secret life. So all the things that were in the category of, I mean, not my proud moment, but I didn't get caught. All of those someday will be revealed. Nothing is hidden from God. It will all be out in the open. So sometimes we describe it as like they play the movie of your life. And you're like, oh, no. Okay, can I just hold the remote while we play it? Like, because you know which parts you want to skip, right? We understand the consequences of sin when we get caught. Like, we understand. It's awkward. There's feelings of guilt. There's shame. There are consequences, like real-world consequences, ramifications. Like, if you tried to cheat on the test and got caught, like, that's an F. Like, oh, that was a bummer. I was hoping for a better grade than that, right? There's damage to your reputation. There's damage to relationships. But even when it doesn't get found out, we still have a problem because it's sin. And sin is always destructive, not just when it gets out in the open. It's just obvious when it gets out in the open. If the primary thing that keeps us from sin is the fear of getting caught, then if we can somehow convince ourselves that we can do it without getting caught, then all sin is on the table, right? Just don't get caught. Jacob's real concern was not an issue of integrity. It was he could lose the prize if Dad found out and got mad at him. As long as he can have the advantages without the consequences, I'm in. So Rebekah assures him, don't worry, whatever, if you get caught, it's on me. Mommy's going to take care of you. So go get the goats and let's do this. So Jacob, here's Jacob. He's the man with a reputation for being the manipulator and a deceiver. But let's just note this as well. He had a pretty good role model, didn't he? Like, mom is not really doing him any favors, is she? So he already leans this way, and mom's like, oh, no, let me show you how to do this better. Like, this is how you deceive and manipulate. This is how you make things go your way. This is how you get yourself ahead of others. And it's a reminder, right, that we as parents or grandparents, like, we model things for our kids. I think in sobering moments, we're well aware of it, the things that we've modeled for our kids. And like, well, I mean, they can go to therapy. Like, I mean, they can do some things, right? Like, we know, like, as parents, like, man, some of the things we modeled, like, ugh. But, like, we get to model all kind of things as parents and grandparents, like how you handle anger and frustration and setbacks, how to treat people who don't treat you well, how to work hard and handle stress, how to give or serve, but on the other side, how to be selfish and look out for yourself. Like, it's amazing, sometimes disheartening, to see our kids walk in our footsteps and be like, oh. Like, some of the ways we're proud, like, that's me. You learned that from me. And then there's others like, oh, I'm so sorry you learned that from me. Right? Like, this is the reality of how that goes. So let's watch now this whole thing play out. So Jacob went and got the goats, brought them to his mother. She prepared some tasty food just the way his father liked it. She then grabbed some of Esau's clothes for Jacob to put on, so he's playing dress up now, covered his hands and neck with goat skins because his brother is hairy. And then when he's fully in costume, she hands him the food, and he goes in to his father and says, my father. And right away, Isaac's like, that doesn't sound like Esau. And so Jacob said, specifically, let's say, lied to his father, I'm Esau, your firstborn. I've done as you told me. Please sit up, eat some of my game so that you can give me your blessing. Verse 20, Isaac asked his son, how did you find it so quickly? Watch this. God gets in on this one. The Lord your God gave me success. Enjoy. Like, how's that for a lie? Pulling God into it. Isn't God good? He gave me success. Isaac is still uneasy, and so Isaac said to Jacob, come near, so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not. It's like his spidey senses are tingling the whole time, right? Jacob went close to his father, who touched him and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, so he proceeded to bless him. Are you really my son Esau? I am, he replied. Then he said, my son, bring me some of your game to eat so that I may give you my blessing. We eat and we bless. So Jacob brought it to him, and he ate. He brought some wine, and he drank, and then his father Isaac said to him, come here, my son, and kiss me. Still not convinced. Something is off here. Something's not right. He wants one more verification. And so Jacob went and kissed him, and when Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, and abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. This is the blessing that's spoken over him. And one of the things I want you to notice, so there's a promise originally given to Abraham, and then to Isaac, and now would have gone to Esau, but goes to Jacob. And it's this blessing for personal prosperity, that you would be notable and known, and that you would be protected by God. So, like, there's the blessing, right? Like, yes, I did it. I got the blessing. He pulled it off. Like mom and Jacob high-fiving, like, you did it. Amazing. Like, we conned him. It was so good. And remember, Jacob's fear was, what if I get found out? And so he managed to eke out the blessing, right? Without being discovered. But stop and think. Here's what we all know is true, and somehow he failed to think through in the moment. He was going to be caught. There was no way he wasn't. The moment Esau showed up to get the blessing, it's all blowing up, right? So his fear was, what if it looks like I'm trying to trick Dad? Okay, you were, and he is going to find out. And this is the hard truth, right? And so again, let's notice this. In the middle of temptation, like, we don't think all the way ahead. He didn't think through, like, his biggest fear was he was going to be found out, and here's the one guarantee in this scenario. Oh, you're going to be found out. For sure. So Esau comes back with the meal and discovers that his brother has already been there. There's a blessing that's already been given. His father has been tricked. And it was always going to come to this. There was no way it doesn't end like this. Jacob was focused on the prize, not the aftermath. He was focused on the deception and the fear of being found out in the moment, didn't think through being found out after the fact, which was guaranteed to happen. And so it's all about to come out into the open. He didn't get caught in the middle of the con, but at the end, everybody's going to see it. And so he got what he wanted, right? He got in there, he got that blessing, he walked out. He gets out before Esau shows up. But so here's how we described the life of Jacob. Like, one of the things he does is he burns bridges. This is a burned bridge. You're not going back. You're not undoing this. There's no way to repair what you just did. So shortly after the blessing was spoken over Jacob, Esau shows up and said, Father, please sit up, eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing. And his father Isaac said to him, who are you? I'm your son, he answered, your firstborn son, Esau. And then look at this line. Isaac trembled violently. Like, let that hit. Like, that is the rage, the broken heart, like the sense that, like, did they just do this to me? Like, and the sense of trembling violently, like it hits him, and like he can't even believe what has just happened here. Your brother came, and he knows immediately what happened, right? Jacob's fear was, what if I get found out? Well, the moment Esau walks in, Isaac describes exactly what happened. Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing. And there it is. The thing that he feared is out in the open. And Isaac puts it together quickly, right? The whole time, he felt like something's not right here. And he keeps testing and looking for signs. So two facts hit Isaac immediately. One, oh, Jacob deceived me. And two, I spoke that blessing over Jacob, not Esau. And that blessing is going to stand. So when Esau originally traded his birthright, like he didn't really see the value of that, right? But this time, Esau fully understands the value of what's been lost. Jacob has gained it all through lies and deceit. Esau said, isn't he rightly named Jacob? This is the second time he's taken advantage of me. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing. So, paraphrase, my brother has lived up to his name. He's a cheater and a deceiver. His name fits him so well. He's willing to justify anything to get what he wants. And then he asked his father, "Haven't you reserved any blessing for me?" Isaac answered Esau, "I've made him lord over you and made all of his relatives his servants. I've sustained him with grain and new wine. What can I possibly do for you?" So the blessing has already been spoken. It's going to stand. And so he offers a secondary or watered down blessing for Esau. And the most hopeful piece of that blessing is this, that someday you're going to throw off the yoke of your younger brother. So let's sit now with how this all ends. So Rebekah and Jacob pulled it off. Jacob's got the blessing. This is what he's been scheming for. This is what he'd been trying to get in line for. And all he had to do was cheat his brother and exploit his father. Easy, right? Sweet victory. Again, like picture mom and Jacob celebrating like, "We did it! You got the blessing!" And then everything is about to implode. Like it's almost a weird scenario, like to come out like, "We pulled it off." And like, oh no, this is going to get bad. The cost would be very high. So Jacob got the blessing. He got what he wanted. So you'd think like, oh, well now you get to enjoy the fruit of your deception. But you know what happens next? And this is where we're going to go next week. He's running for his life. So he has to get away from home so that he can continue to live, because his brother has sworn that the moment dad is gone, I will let you live as long as he's alive, but the moment he is gone, I'm on you. So Rebekah's like, "You got to go, son." So he's fleeing for his life, which means he is putting everything he knows and loves from home behind him. He has destroyed the relationship with his brother. He has humiliated and damaged his relationship with his father. Oh, and Jacob, who is mommy's favorite, well, he will never see her again in his life. She will die before he returns home. So his last sight of his mom is they're hugging and congratulating, or whatever that looked like after they pulled it off. Like the last thing they did together was humiliate dad and destroy Esau. And that's it. That'd be his last interaction with his mother. And all of that aftermath comes down to this. Like God had said it at the beginning, right? That the younger will be over the older one. God had declared it, but that wasn't enough. And God would do it, but they couldn't wait on God. And so the inability to take God at his word and the refusal to wait on God would result in them taking matters into their own hands. So manipulation, deception, exploitation, which would lead to just like a destroyed family, shattered relationships, fractured lives, and burned bridges. And there is no going back from all of this. And all because they wouldn't take God at his word and they wouldn't wait on his timing. So we use the analogy of everybody trying to get a hold of the steering wheel, right? And I found this picture. I think this is fitting. Right? Like everybody is jockeying for the steering wheel and trying to drive the car and get it going where they want. But now there is no steering wheel, and it's just held together with vice grips. And even picture beyond that, like I want you to picture like the wheels wobbling at this point, and, you know, maybe a door hanging, and, you know, smoke pouring out, and Jacob's got his fist in the air like, "Yes, did it!" Right? Like this is the thing. Like he had envisioned this sweet victory, and what did he really end up with? Like in the picture of the car, like you were fighting for control of that thing, and now you're just riding a wreck until it crashes. And isn't this so often how sin works? Like you underestimate the cost. You've probably heard the description of sin by many a preacher for years and years, but sin will take you further than you ever wanted to go. It'll keep you longer than you ever wanted to stay, and will cost you more than you ever wanted to pay. Like, that's what sin does. So one other thing I just want you to notice. So if you remember, a few months ago we did, leading up to Easter, our story that we did on the whole Bible, right? Called it Redemption Story. And the whole story of the Bible, from beginning to end, is here's how everything is broken, and here's what's being done to repair it, and then ultimately it will be restored. So I want you to follow Jacob's story and see how he fits in that. Could he not be a more perfect picture of sin run amok? Could he not be a more perfect picture of, and this is what sin looks like in the real world, in real life, with real families? And so, like even all of this brokenness, with God's grace toward him, saying, I have chosen and will bless you. Like if we're just saying, does this man deserve God's blessing? Like, let's take a quick poll. Who thinks he deserves God's blessing? And we're all like, yeah, he does not deserve a thing. And again, like, this is where we come back to the gospel. Because that's you and me. That's your story, my story. Grace that is undeserved. Whatever mess you've created, whatever wreck you wound up driving because of the choices you made, like, it doesn't go beyond the reach of God's grace. And like, as we unpack Jacob and keep nodding our heads like, dude, man, you are a wreck. Like, catch the redemption story. And yet, God still has a plan for that broken man. God will still engage him. And God will still let him know that I am with you and I love you. When from the purely human standpoint, we say, well, you just disqualified yourself from everything. And God says, that broken man is somebody that I have plans for. Whatever your story, whatever your mess, whatever mess is in your family, your kids or your grandkids, whatever has ripped through your world, like, God does not wash his hands of it and say, well, that's a little further than I want to deal with right there. Like, the beauty of the gospel is God wades into our mess, where we can easily look and point and say, that is way far gone right there. And then we read, but God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish but have everlasting life. Goes on to say, God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world. So not to say, Jacob just wanted to come and confront your pitiful life and say, I'm done with you. Nope. He didn't send his son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him would be saved. Like, that is crazy, amazing grace, isn't it? So whatever brokenness you carry, whatever is ripped through your life or your family, whatever you did that created brokenness, or whatever was done to you that brought brokenness, none of it is beyond God's reach. And I'm so thankful. I hope you are too. Like, that we can look at a mess of a life like Jacob and just keep shaking our head the whole time and be like, wow, like, how is God even using this? And he's not alone, right? Like Samson. What a doofus. Like, how could God have a plan for that man? But he did. Moses was a murderer. Really? Like, you're not going to, oh, you are going to use him. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. And like the story goes on and on and on. It's the story of sin and the damage and God's pursuit and his grace. And we're going to see that in Jacob's story as we continue.